Financial knowledge and education gives people control over their money and financial resources and also enables them to make informed financial decisions. I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned and hear about this important subject from our knowledgeable guests. Parker Bartolozzi is a community activist and educator. He has led financial literacy workshops on strategies for maximizing long-term savings goals for the past 4 years. Tricia LeConte is an author, speaker, and educator who has extensive knowledge in financial education and leadership development. Frank Richards is a wealth strategist who provides peace of mind by securing the financial futures of individuals, families, and businesses. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
We've had a bull market and low unemployment rates in recent years. Does that mean that most families are in good financial shape today?
That's a question that everybody should be asking themselves. I mean, the market's been going up for over 10 years. Businesses are doing well. Investments should be doing well. But the question really comes down to, are people doing well? And if people don't have at least 3 to 6 months worth of income, then I would say they're not doing well. But if you just look at what people are doing now, it may appear to be doing that they're doing well. But the fact is that people are spending, they're buying things that they probably shouldn't be buying. They should be putting aside for a longer for retirement or something like that. So I think our focus needs to shift so that people are really focused on long term instead of just thinking about the now. So financial education has to be a priority.
So why is saving so important even for young adults?
So saving is very important. Compared to our parents and our grandparents, times are no longer the same. They used to have a retirement strategy called the three-legged stool, where they were able to have a pension, their personal savings, and then also Social Security. Nowadays, pensions are rarely being offered. They're either misfunded or mismanaged. There's a fear going across the country about Social Security. It's called social insecurity.
Right,
right. And business owners and corporations are actually pushing the responsibility of retirement back onto the shoulders of their employees. So right now is the time for people to become a lot more educated about money, but as we know, education or financial education is not really provided in schools. There's actually a quote that I like. It's from Mickey Mantle, famous baseball player.
Mickey Mantle?
Yeah, I think 50s or 60s. I'm dating myself, huh? So anyway, he said, it's unbelievable how much people don't know about a game that they've been playing their whole life. And young adults, unfortunately, have been spending and using money for a long time. However, they haven't been educated on it. So if you don't know the game of money, the chances of you succeeding are probably slim.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So what are different ways that people can save money? There's so many different ways.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes that variety of options and choices is really what confuses people when it comes to what's going to be the best route or the best financial vehicle for them. There are, as just some common examples, 401ks, savings accounts, college accounts, pensions, you name it. But it really comes down to what you want that account to do and what your intention for those savings is in the long run. So whether it's, for college savings for your children, whether it's for retirement income, whether it's just to have that emergency or opportunity fund for when something comes up in the future.
Right.
And so, we like to really focus on what's going to be important to who we're working with. Some factors to consider are access of the money, the rate of return that you're going to get on it, so the rate of growth, if there's tax benefits to it, and things like this.
So it can get pretty complicated, can't it?
It can, but once you get past that veil of really just jargon and you understand the basic rules to money, it gets a lot easier.
So what are some of the barriers to building wealth and financial security for most people? It seems like some people are afraid of the subject.
Absolutely. I would say lack of education. The situation of most families is that they're living with way too much debt, they're not savings, they don't have a plan, and oftentimes they don't know who to ask or even where to get help. And so a lot
That's
of
true.
Absolutely, right? And so a lot of times people have to understand the wealth formula if they want to have positive net wealth versus negative net wealth. Some factors that people can start to think about are taxes, for example. If you think that taxes are going to be higher in the future, it doesn't make a lot of sense to defer a lot of taxes.
Right.
So one thing that people can think about is different ways to build a tax-free income stream for retirement. Another thing is the rate of return. If a lot of people's savings are in a vehicle where it goes up and it goes down, if the market kind of corrects itself, they can lose a lot of their wealth. So think about different vehicles to be able to reduce the downside of the rate of return and be able to experience a lot of the upside potential. You've heard of John Bogle, right?
Right.
Yeah, he was the founder of Vanguard.
Vanguard.
Yeah, founder of Vanguard. He spoke a lot about mutual funds. Now, Grace, do you think a 2% fee is high or low?
2% fee. I try to stay below 2%.
That's good. That's good. A lot of people will say it's a low fee, but over the course of maybe 30, 40 years,
Yes.
that can significantly reduce
Yes.
the amount of wealth accumulation by maybe 50% or so. So looking at different strategies to reduce the fees that you're paying could also push you in a higher income as well for retirement.
That's really good information.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the cost of waiting or procrastinating regarding investing?
I would say tens of thousands of dollars. A perfect example would be you have a 23-year-old and a 32-year-old, and they're both going to retire at the same age of 65. But at their ages, they start saving the same amount every year, they get the same rate of return, and then when 65 comes, the younger one, the 23-year-old, actually has about $600,000 more than the 32-year-old.
That much more.
That much more, yes. So if you take that number, the 600,000, you divide it by the 9-year difference, you almost have a average loss of about $66,000 a year.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Grace, if you had a pocket with a hole in it and $66,000 a year were coming out, wouldn't you want to patch that hole up?
Absolutely.
Right. So what we do is encourage people to start saving now, and that's the best way to fix that hole.
I think that's very, very good advice. So how do people get educated about personal finance? I don't think they're getting it in our school system. I know that I certainly didn't.
Right. Unfortunately, in our school system, when it comes to finance, most of the classes that are offered cover either, U.S. economics or business finance. Rarely do they cover personal finance. Although there are a lot of books out there, there's a lot of information. The resources are available to people via the public, but for a lot of people, it's an overload of information. Where do they start? What information is going to be relevant to their lives? An example that I have is a younger client that I was working with. He's saving for retirement. His goal is to retire by 50, but unfortunately, he has a lot of his money locked up in a 401k. Now, if you're familiar with the rules and regulations to a 401k, he doesn't really have full access to that until after 59 and a half.
Right.
But because of that lack of information, because of that lack of literacy, he just knew 401k was something for savings.
So it's really important to get that education maybe into our school systems.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Not only that, but also part of it is just really reaching out to a licensed financial professional who is willing to educate and teach, because most people know what they want their money to do. They just need help on how to make it.
How to do it.
Yes, exactly.
So how does the U.S. compare with other countries regarding financial literacy? Are we ahead, behind? What's happening with us?
I love when that question comes up. Unfortunately, there are some countries who are definitely doing better than the U.S. when it comes to financial literacy.
And why is that?
What I found is a lot of the countries that are doing a lot better, and it shows in their savings, is because financial literacy is being taught as early as grade school.
Oh, really?
Once you really break down the concepts, children understand this stuff, right? It's just, once again, going back to saying that a lot of the information and a lot of the understanding is being lost in the jargon, words of the particular industry. And when people hear it, they're just like, oh, well, I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what these numbers mean. And instead of getting the education to translate those numbers, they just, toss it to the side. Oh, I'll worry about it later and whatnot. But as an example, a lot of the difference can be found in the savings habits of the people of various countries. In countries where financial literacy is taught in grade school, a lot of those people are saving up to 40% of their annual income for later in life. Unfortunately, in the US, our average is usually less than 10%.
Oh, so that's quite a difference.
Definitely.
Now, do we have to have a certain kind of mindset about investing?
Absolutely. One of my clients I was working with, he said he was using the ostrich method. And so I was like, I've never heard of the ostrich method. But I realized that he didn't want to take a look at his finances because it was in the variable market. I mean, Grace, how would you feel like if you had your money in the market for retirement and over a course of a day you lose thousands of dollars?
But I wouldn't lose any money if I don't sell, right? If I was invested in the stock market.
Yeah, if that particular stock doesn't do well, you could lose a lot overnight. And so he didn't want to know what's going on. The mindset has to be about what can I do now to improve the finances that I have, to improve my investments. So you don't have to know everything, but you want to have a team to support you that knows more so that you can put yourself in a better financial position. One of my great mentors, he said that, he knows what he knows, or I know what I know. I know somebody who knows what I don't know, and that's all I have to know. So being able to have a team who knows more than you could be dramatically, improve the chances of you being able to retire and stay retired, or just be financially independent.
Absolutely. So are there some basic rules of money that you can tell us about?
So one of my favorite rules is called the Rule of 72. Have you heard of that one before?
No, I haven't.
It basically tells you how long it will take your money to double. So if you have 72 and you divide it by an interest rate of 1%, your money will double in 72 years.
That's a very long time.
Yes. So most people that have their money in the bank, a typical savings account is probably 0.1%. Therefore, the money never doubles throughout their lifetime.
Right.
Now, if you can get a rate of return of 12%, 72 divided by 12, it means it'll take 6 years for your money to double. Now, typically people have interest rates between 1% and 4%. How long do you think it would take for someone to reach their, dreams and goals?
A long time.
A long time. So if people can just shift into higher rates of return between 6 and 12%, then they can most definitely get to their dreams and goals a lot faster, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's my favorite rule.
Right?
That's a good rule.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Another rule of money is how it grows, right? Which really affects the style of growth that we have. There's, of course, the rate, but then you have fixed, which is like your slow and steady, usually that's 0 to 4% that Frank was talking about, where your money is guaranteed, so it's safe, you're not losing it, but it's also not growing very fast. Unfortunately, with this style, it oftentimes doesn't even keep up with the rate of inflation. So you're losing buying power, right? Next, you have variable growth, which, if you look at it on a chart, almost looks like a EKG heart attack, right? Your money goes up, it goes down.
Right.
The goal is to get out with your money at a high point, but there's no guarantees on it,
Right.
right? Thirdly, there's indexed, where it grows with the market, but anytime the market goes down, you don't take any of that risk and you don't take any of those losses. Imagine if you were at a blackjack table and you're gambling, and every time you lose, they give you your money back. And then every time you win, they give you your money and your winnings. Would you ever leave that table?
That is a good table.
Right? So that's indexed. Third rule of money is how we get taxed. Because at the end of the day, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you get to keep and take. Right? So there's tax now, where not only are you taxed on the money as you're earning it, but then you're taxed on the growth of that money. There's tax deferred, where you don't pay any taxes now, but you'll pay all the taxes on the money later when you go to pull it out,
Right.
after it's grown. And then there's tax advantaged, or you have the freedom to grow it tax-free and keep it tax-free. Does that all make sense?
It does. But I think most people would need help in understanding that thoroughly.
Absolutely. And that's why we say, to connect with someone that's going to have the patience and take the time to go over all that.
Now, tell us again, how can we make money work for us?
I actually love this question. There's young adults out there that actually have 2 to 3 jobs.
Oh,
so
dear.
you'd probably say they work pretty hard, right?
Yes, very
Now,
hard.
Wouldn't it make sense that their money also work hard for them too?
Absolutely.
Right. So one way, as I said earlier, is to find investment vehicles that allow you to get higher rates of return. That's one way of being able to have your money work harder for you. The other one is to lower your fees, lower your taxation, and also eliminate debt. And when you do that, that allows you to free up more money that you can then have work for you too.
That makes sense.
Yep. So getting control of those different options will most definitely get you ahead of the curve.
So tell us about short and long-term financial goals.
Absolutely. So in my industry, short-term goals are considered anything within 10 years. This is going to be things like purchasing a new vehicle, sometimes purchasing a new home, moving, or any larger purchases that we want just to really live the way that we want, right? Sometimes entertainment, vacations, things like this. Of course, long-term goals are going to be things such as retirement, long-term savings. Also, in our industry, we refer to it as legacy planning. And then also, saving up for college funding for children, because every year college education is more and more expensive.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? For myself, I found myself in a situation where, because my mother hadn't sat with anyone and no one went over anything with her, I had to end up paying for college out of pocket by myself.
By yourself.
Right? So I was one of those younger students in college working 2 jobs while paying for rent and tuition and books and supplies all at the same time.
So you did it the hard way.
I definitely did. And one thing is, I feel for myself, it really hit important to me, because I don't want my children to have to put in as much work as I did
Right.
just to get where I am.
Right,
Right? I want them to have that next step.
right.
So for us, that's the biggest difference between short-term goals and long-term goals. And depending on which one you're aiming at, there are going to be different strategies, different accounts, and different methods of reaching those goals.
Right, right, absolutely. But in today's world, some people are living from paycheck to paycheck. Now, is there some way that they can free up some money to invest? How can they do that?
Yeah, we got to be smart with our money, Grace, right? And so the average American family is actually spending more than their monthly income. So let's just say that this circle represents their income. About half their expenses immediately go to living expenses like
Right.
mortgage, rent, utilities,
Right.
car payments, things like that. Then a huge chunk goes towards paying taxes, and then the last chunk goes towards paying debt. Now, a lot of times people will think, okay, well, if I need to free up money, they have to be put on a budget. But Grace, do you like to be put on a budget?
Absolutely
If you
not.
want to get your hair done or your nails done or watch the whole sports package or whatever, you probably want to be able to do that. I mean, do you think people can even put themselves on a budget permanently?
Very few, if
Very few.
any.
Yeah, so that's not a good strategy. So here's a different perspective. What if you figured out a way to reduce your taxes from every paycheck? That'll bring in more money per month, right?
Right.
What about reducing your payments for your debt? What if you found a way to do that? That would, again, free up more so that you can begin to save. And the rules that we just went over, the rules around money, if you applied that to now your increased portion of savings, that can really take you far. And it can be a dramatic difference between you being able to retire and stay retired, or retire and then realize that you don't have enough money to stay retired. Right? And I'm sure that's not a goal that most people have.
That would be a
right? So
shame.
you got to be smart with your money.
Right. So what are some of the challenges for everyone, not only young people, but for everyone who's trying to save for the future?
What quickly comes to mind, being here in the Bay Area, the cost of living. It's very expensive.
Very expensive.
And there's young adults who have part-time jobs while in school needing to make money because their parents are unable to afford rent.
Right.
So that's a first major challenge that kind of sets people back. The other one is we are a consumer nation, so we love to buy,
Right.
and especially things that we can't really afford. And next is the mentality of, we'll make more money in the future.
So we're going to maximize our credit cards.
Exactly. So those three different challenges most definitely set people back.
So how can we help young people to understand how money works? You've touched on some of that already, but they need to understand the importance of saving money from a very young age to save for the future.
Absolutely. And I think the strongest way to really get this information over to younger people is just to make it relevant. A lot of times when we talk about long-term savings and younger people, we mention retirement. Of course, when you hear retirement,
Right.
what comes to mind? What's the visual image? You think, oh, people later in life, someone who's done working, no longer worried about income. But if we just change the language that we're using a little bit and we say, well, what type of lifestyle would you like to live? How would you like to be able to provide for your family? What opportunities would you like opened for your children and your grandchildren? These are concepts that younger people can grasp, and it's a lot easier for them to answer. And as long as we can get focused down to what younger people want, then it's a lot easier for us to help guide them and develop those plans to be able to reach those goals.
That's a really good approach. I really like that approach.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us about some of your experiences with young people and some of your success stories?
Yes. I actually have a few young clients that I work with, and one of them, I absolutely adore her because her work ethic reminds me of mine when I was going to college. Her parents weren't able to save for her, but she pays for college out of pocket. She currently works 3 jobs.
Oh my goodness.
And she sat with me back when she was starting college because she knew she wanted to put a plan together to be able to make that happen and to be able to, finish out school, not have too much in student debt, and really just stay afloat. So we put a plan together, and luckily as long as she keeps her plan right now and stays focused on it, she's actually going to have all of her student loan taken care of within 5 years of graduating.
Wow.
At the same time, she is actively saving for her little brother's college education.
Oh, wonderful.
So that he doesn't have to go through
Right.
the hardships that she is. But what's nice about this, because she's so focused and because her work ethic is so strong, as long as she stays on track with this, she'll even be able to retire by about age 50
Wow.
with a 6-figure income.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. How can we decide whether we should manage the money ourselves or work with a trusted financial advisor instead?
Well, if you're young and you have a part-time job, the first step is to develop a habit of saving. Now, once you start saving and you have about 6 months to about a year's worth of income, then that's when you start reaching out to a financial professional to figure out how you can start growing it. And then as you get, further in your career and you add a 401k and some IRAs and maybe a brokerage account, that's when you need to start having a financial team around you. So if you study the wealthy, they most definitely have a team of financial professionals.
So you need a whole team around you?
You'd want to, because if you have experience, then you are able to increase your likelihood of success. So this includes adding an estate attorney, tax preparers, tax strategists,
I see.
CPAs. So, you have people that have unique value that can help get you to where you want to go.
Now, if we decide to work with financial advisor, what's the best way to find a good one? Because there's so many out there. How can we choose a good one?
Yeah, you definitely want to try and interview just a couple of different ones because you want to make sure that obviously that person is licensed, that they go through continuous education because in this field, products and services are always changing. Another good thing is make sure they take the time to educate you. right? You want to put the financial responsibility back on yourself
Right.
instead of on somebody else.
Right.
So making sure that they have time to educate you, that they really just care about you, they're friendly, you have a connection. I think all those are important things when you're looking for an advisor.
Yeah, I really agree. That's very, very good advice. Now, you've been giving people a lot of advice, but what's the best advice you can give to millennials right now?
So what's great is that we've already told you, and that's to start saving. And when you
Right.
save, you use the power of compounding interest.
Right.
When you're young, you typically don't have a mortgage, you don't have any kids, you're probably single.
Hopefully.
Yeah, yes, most definitely, right? And you have no reason except to just start saving. And what's exciting is when you start saving and that pile of money gets bigger and bigger, you can actually turn it into what I call an opportunity fund. So if there's something that comes along that you want to be able to take advantage of, like a last minute trip to the islands in Italy or something, you can actually take part in it, you know? So I kind of say, if you save, you can have fun. If you don't save, you can't have any fun.
Very good advice. So what's the worst advice millennials have been getting, and who's been giving them this bad advice?
The other one, life is short, you know? So all the Instagram influencers and marketing gurus and anybody trying to sell you something tell you now is the time to buy stuff. And unfortunately, we're in a society where we're living longer. We're going to need more money in retirement. We may even not be working anymore because our body was shut down. So you have to kind of settle with whatever you have. So it's best to really plan for the future.
Now, any closing thoughts you may like to leave with us, leave with young adults or people of any age?
One closing thought I would love is, some people think that money is a great motivator, but it's really not, because if it was, a lot of us would be fighting a lot harder for it, right? But it's not so much money that is a good motivator, but the things that money can provide, because it provides options, it provides freedom, it provides lifestyle, and when you have access to money, then you don't have to work that job that's unhealthy for you. You don't have to go into work when you're sick. You have the options and freedom to say no, or as Frank said, to take opportunities where those opportunities present themselves.
Right, right.
So it's the freedom that is really the greatest motivator there.
Very, very good last thoughts. So with that, thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, yes.
I hope that after listening to our guests, you now have a better understanding of why it's never too early, or too late for that matter, to start our financial education. And please remember to also watch us on YouTube and Roku. Thank you for being with us today on The Better Part. See you next time. Bye-bye.